Welcome to the 10K Creator, a podcast with me, Daren Smith from Craftsman Creative, and your own Joe Polizzi, where we document and break down how I and other content entrepreneurs can get to 10,000 email subscribers and $10,000 per month in revenue. All right, welcome everybody. This is Daren again with the 10K Creator Show, and we have got our last guest expert of this season, the season one of the 10K Creator. I'm excited to be joined today by Brian Clark from Further and many other entities that you've had over the past. So Brian, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, let us know a little bit about you and why we should listen to you, and then I'll dive into why I'm excited to listen to you.
Okay, so succinctly as possible, back in '98, I quit my big law firm job as an attorney and started publishing online, figured some things out, figured out that you could create content that attracted an audience that allowed you to sell stuff. This was the late '90s. We didn't quite have a name for it yet. Some guy named Joe Polizzi was sitting around, what would I call this? So I built 3 service businesses that way, and everyone thought I was insane because it was just kind of went against most of what we think about as far as traditional marketing. In 2006, I started a site to teach people what I had been doing called Copyblogger. 2 years later, Joe convinced me that what I was teaching is called content marketing. And so I said, okay. And kind of the rest is history from there. But in 2018 and 2019, we sold off our business, 2 different business divisions that we had built up into an 8-figure company. I went on sabbatical for a bit, and then I came back and made 2 of my side projects that I did for fun, Unemployable and Further. And those are now 2 components of my current business.
So cool. I'm just giddy that you're here because I've been following along with Copyblogger and your journey for a number of years. I'm a member of the Unemployable initiative, so your membership community. I've been paying attention to everything you write. It's like one of the few email addresses I allow into my inbox these days is Brian Clark. And so we actually got to meet for the first time at CEX back in May of this year. Yep. And you gave me some very poignant advice back then, which I wanted to bring up because I wanted to let you know that it didn't fall on deaf ears, right? So I was talking to you and talking to Joe and talking to a lot of people about, I'm trying my hand at this creator economy thing. What am I not doing yet that I should be doing? And the thing you told me was you have a traffic problem. Like, that's it, and you were dead right. So I went home and over like a week, built a little tracking spreadsheet. I started putting all the different code into all the different pages of my website so I knew where I was right now. And that way I could do a better job of like making that number go up week over week. And I've managed to do so. So I wanted to first thank you for coming on the show. But second, going back to May when we first chatted in person, like that was a hard-hitting thing. It was like, you're dead right. I don't have enough traffic to even know what's working and not working. So we can dive into that or not, but
well, I think we'll end up talking about that because I think about that a lot over the last 3 years because, I think it's not a surprise to anyone that, we had kind of a golden age of content marketing and golden age of social media back in the day, and everything is different. Everything's more competitive. The audiences are a little more used to receiving the content that we give. So yeah, it's a common problem. So my brain has been going there quite a bit. And I think it was easy to see when I looked at what you were doing. I'm like, you're doing a lot right. You just don't have enough people, to make it work.
Hey there, we will get right back to the show after a few quick words about our incredible sponsors.
StreamYard is the easiest way to create content right in your browser. You can multi-stream to your social media platforms, host a weekly show with special guests, create webinars, record podcasts, create videos, and more. And they make it easy to brand and customize your videos inside the studio before you even go live. StreamYard's a popular tool amongst live streamers, video creators, YouTubers, and podcasters. StreamYard makes it simple to get professional and polished content every time. Get started now for free at StreamYard.com. Whether you have an established following or you're just starting out, books are an easy way to build credibility, diversify your revenue streams, and connect with your community. And just like Daren, you can use Lulu's free platform to turn your best performing content into a beautiful book to benefit your creative endeavors. With their e-commerce plugins, growing your audience and selling your work directly has never been easier. Create an account today to publish, print, and prosper at lulu.com, Lulu.com. Watch your first YouTube video. Read your first blog post. Find your first newsletter. Listen to your first podcast episode. Now, compare it to your most recent piece of content. It's night and day, isn't it? That's how much your content has grown, how much you've grown. If you're like most creators, your email marketing platform reminds you of that first creative effort. It has not kept up. You need a fresh start. Get that fresh start with ConvertKit.
Yeah, no, it's so true. So welcome to the show. Thank you for being here. Basically, what we're after is one bit of advice as far as growing your audience, specifically your email list, to this goal that we've set of 10,000 email subscribers. I know you've written about that as kind of a minimum viable audience in the past. Maybe even coined the phrase, if I'm accurate there, minimum viable audience.
That's true. That's true. It is kind of a made up number, but it's a good rule of thumb. Really, It's the amount of enough engaged people as opposed to a top line number. But we'll just use 10,000. And hey, it made for a good show title, right?
Very true. I've utilized it a lot. And then we're also looking at a piece of advice for the revenue side, getting to that $10,000 a month, which I've kind of put out there as, if you can get to 10K a month from content and books and courses and all the other stuff that we do in this as creator entrepreneurs or content entrepreneurs, you're going to be doing okay. You can kind of live wherever you want. You've got some stability, and then anything above that is gravy. It's that kind of a bonus. If you do a project, or if you go off and, like I do films, I want that to be extra income, not my main income, because it's so fickle.
Right.
I had a movie that I was supposed to do in October, and it went away like 2 weeks before we started. So that's the industry. So where would you like to start? Do you have any questions about where I'm currently at in my business? I'm ready to dive in. I've got my notes open. I'm so excited.
Okay, I do have questions for you, but I do want to lay a little bit of groundwork about the way I've been thinking since 2019, when I kind of got back in the game. And I call it the personal enterprise approach. Now, personal enterprise is a term I stole from a guy named, I think it's Helmut Tania. He wrote a book called Unscaled. And I read this book because it's all about how small, tiny companies can be super powerful thanks to the internet, audience, and emerging technology. In his mind, this will accelerate even more with AI and some of the other technologies that are really kind of gaining steam right now as we speak. And he used it to mean that traditional work was going away, and people, it's kind of like the gig economy, except you'd have lots of different projects going on. So you might have a freelance gig. You get projects off of platforms that are fueled by VCs like him, like Fiverr and Upwork, which I'm not a fan of, but I get his point. You might create a digital product. You've got all, like a portfolio career is another way of thinking about this. So I kind of recognized that personal enterprise is what I did between 2007 and when we sold in 2018, 2019, because first I had 3 different companies. They all hit 7 figures in revenue, right? They were bootstrapped. They were always profitable. Then I merged them together and kept going, and then created an 8-figure company. But we kept launching new products every year to our audience, basically hitting different audience segments in some cases. And other times we had our super fans. At that scale, instead of 1,000 true fans, we had 10,000 maniacs. That's what I started calling them, because they would buy everything that we put out. So there's a couple things to take away from that. With the audience first model, which is the creator model, some will argue, well, it's much easier to create one thing and grow that. And I disagree. When you go audience first, you will make more money by creating different offers for the entire spectrum of your audience, and then also serving those super fans who will generally, to the extent they haven't bought a competing offer, then they will buy everything that you put out, right? So it's a different way of thinking about things. Audience first is different in itself. At least it was back in 2006, 2007. But it's really, I think, an accelerated version of lean principles, lean startup stuff, like Eric Ries, whose book didn't come out until 5 years later. But we had found that we had been doing a lot of that stuff. The other point about the personal enterprise is it's kind of represented, I represent it with a pyramid, which is a progression of different revenue models. And from doing the Unemployable podcast for 5-7 years, I don't even know what it's been now, just interviewing digital entrepreneurs, everyone starts off with client services, almost to the number, right? So we have this picture in our head that someone just shows up, writes a business plan, raises money, and that's how they start a business. But most of us start off as freelancers or consultants. I certainly did. That was my first successful business. Then I went into, it was actually a real estate brokerage, but that was more like an agency model, but it was still client services before I started Copyblogger. And the third insight from that is that the people who go on to be creators, as we now call them, or digital entrepreneurs, content entrepreneurs, is that there's something about when they were doing client services that gave them the idea that became the spark, right? It became how they found the idea was actually dealing with real live people, right? Regardless of all, I talked a lot about observation and listening of the audience, very valuable, but really that's just a substitute for talking to people. So let me give you an example. Brian Gardner, who was my former business partner, he was the first person to sell a premium product in the WordPress space. I mean, that sounds amazing. If you're familiar with the WordPress space now, it's big business. But all open source projects happen this way. Everything's free, and then someone says, hey, I'll sell you this and provide you support, which is not included with open source, and then it commercializes. So Brian was the first one to sell a premium theme that was supported, and he got the idea because he was doing freelance WordPress theme development. He started Revolution. I heard that he was making $30,000 a month. I talked to my WordPress designer, and I said, we got to get in on this. And that's how we entered the WordPress market in 2008 and stayed there in multiple products until we sold to WP Engine in 2018. So that's one example. Nathan Barry, everyone knows as the kingpin of ConvertKit, but Nathan was a freelancer, and then he was an information entrepreneur with books and courses. And then he came up with this idea for something called ConvertKit, which wasn't even an email service at the beginning, but the idea evolved. And then Nathan will tell you he put the project aside while he continued with his current business model. It's almost shocking to think he almost didn't go forward with it. But then he refocused on ConvertKit, positioned it in a unique way, and the rest is history. One more example, Laura Roeder started off as a freelance web designer. She then moved into courses and training. While in the process of teaching people social media strategies and tactics, she realized that there was a software opportunity there and developed the SaaS Get Edgar, which allowed for long-term social media scheduling, which was a feature that no one else offered. And again, it's the same progression that you see over and over with people. So I took that information and then I looked back at my own career and I said, you figured out that you understood content marketing, even though you didn't call it that, from those first 3 businesses. So you scrapped all of that. I did it the hard way and started a whole new audience from scratch to talk, with Copyblogger. And at that time, the beginning of Web 2.0, it was the right time to do that. Okay. It was, it was like the perfect storm of the time to start Copyblogger. But I was thinking, well, what if you could strategically build an audience tied to that first rung of the enterprise, which is client services, and take it forward from there? Okay, that's enough groundwork. So when I look at Craftsman Creative and I see that you have a services component, my eyes actually lit up, because that's your leverage point. Even though I know you don't want to do that forever. I think Jay Klaus told you, why don't you just do that, right? You could get to 10 grand, no problem. He's not wrong. But what if you also built a broader audience while you're making that 10 grand, maybe 20 grand a month, you're making a profit, you're growing a broader audience, and you're picking up those clues, just like everyone does, that leads to the first product. That's what I want to talk to you about today. So my first question is, tell me, on the services side of Craftsman Creative, what are you currently offering there?
So specifically within Craftsman Creative, there's creative strategy, like strategic coaching, and consulting for creative businesses. So
right.
I've actually done a better job over the last month or so promoting that, talking about it, putting links to it everywhere. And I've had a new coaching client come in, and I've had a great new consulting client come through. Both are in like the video production space, which is where my career has been before this, 10, 15 years of that.
Right.
But I want to take 30 seconds and just, you unlocked something for me that I haven't been able to crack this entire show, 9 episodes in, because I was always kind of separating and saying, here's my, client services businesses, which is like film production falls under, like working as a film producer, that's freelancing. And
right.
doing that kind of work, like creating budgets for people and making movies, that's all freelance work. And I kept trying to figure out how to talk about why I want to do this creator enterprise type stuff, this content entrepreneur stuff. I have product ideas and course ideas and community and all the different things. And you just framed it so much better in that it's a pyramid. You start with this base and then you build the next thing. And so really what this is me discovering this in real time. So if I phrase it properly, I apologize, but like, I need help figuring out that next layer, which is the digital products, right? The digital offers. And so thank you that finally, and I've read your pyramid before, like I know about that concept, but finally I've got more clarity. And I just wanted to highlight that for the audience, because I know they've heard me and watched me struggle through, how do I talk about this stuff? It's like, no, I just want to add another layer to the pyramid. And I know you've got 4 or 5 different tiers that you talk about. So
well, think about it this way, and I can understand why it can be a struggle, because people tend to think of client services as something on an island of its own, that it's just completely separate, and then a creator business is separate. And what I'm trying to explain is, no, really what you have is the business of expertise, right? So when you do client services, it's one-on-one, it is selling your time, it's selling access to you when you think about it, and you're doing it for them. Now, the next area of expertise is doing it with them. This can be group coaching or one-on-one coaching, really, I guess, but also a cohort-based course, which is where you're actually there and you do it once or twice a year and you're teaching the thing like a real teacher, right? It's like a college class. They show up to the classroom and you're there to teach them. And then finally, you've got the passive version of the same content, the same expertise in a self-paced course. which is where they take the information. You're not involved anymore. That's more passive. And they have to basically take that information and do it themselves. So it is one thing. There's just a spectrum of offers and price points, with client services being the most expensive and with the most access to you. The middle tier, the community coaching or cohort-based course as a middle price tier, and then the more affordable option that has no interaction with you is the self-paced course. So that's kind of the opposite. I'm talking about an opposite ladder. Well, you talk about an offer ladder. You start out with free content, then you got the low price product, then the next level, then the expensive thing, then the mastermind, right? That's the kind of a typical business of expertise offer progression or an ascension model. This is a descension model. It starts expensive and it goes down, but scales to a wider audience at the same time because more people can afford the lower priced options. The famous example of this is how Tesla basically dodged bankruptcy every year and built a brand and built the next level of production. They produced the Roadster, which is like it's a novelty car for very, very rich people, right? But they sold it to those people, created brand awareness, got enough money in to build the S and the X, which is still an expensive car, but it's more scalable to a larger segment of the automotive population. And then finally, they got down to the Model 3, which is the scalable mass market model. So that's it's the same approach. And Elon talked about that back in 2015. I didn't read about that until 2019, but I was like, I understand this. This is like a reverse direct marketing thing that goes on. So anyway, that's where we're at. And here's the secret though. And this is the thing that everyone's doing, but no one's talking about, which is people are paying damn good money on email sponsorships, Facebook ads, what have you, to build an audience because they know how valuable that audience is. Now, to come out of pocket to build an audience on a non-ROI basis, meaning you don't get your money back, is fairly foolish. But what do service providers have? You have an expensive thing that you can sell, you can advertise, you can attract those high-paying clients. You can make a profit that offsets your advertising spend. And all the people who don't buy from you are part of your broader audience. And that's who you develop the next product for.
Yeah, that's amazing. I've got so much in my head because I'm trying to put together everything Joe has said, everything Jay and Daphne and our other guest experts have said. And it all works. Like it all is making sense. And now I almost regret telling Jay, like, no, I don't want to do it that way. Because he's like, how much do you charge for consulting? And I said $5,000 a month. And that's about 20 hours of my time. I don't charge by the hour, but it's basically like, give me a project or let me help you implement something in your business. That's $5,000 a month. And he's like, why not just go get 2 of those? I'm like, well, I want to disconnect it from my time, not like, put together.
So he's absolutely right, but all you're doing is playing a longer game and saying,
yeah,
okay, I have to do this today because it's bringing me money, it's building me a broader audience, and it's giving me interactions that are going to help me do successful product development. But I'm like you, in that sense, which is I would do it intentionally for all those benefits. And then as soon as I could, I'd stop taking clients, or I would price myself so high that if someone wants to pay you that, then you're like, okay.
Yeah. Well, that's a recurring thing that has kept popping up in my creative entrepreneur journey, is this idea of doing something until it works. Because what I've tended to do is like write a book and then, oh, that didn't sell very well, so maybe I should add a community. Well, I've got 25 people, but it's not selling super well, so maybe I should do this other thing, or maybe I should start an event, or maybe I should start a podcast or whatever. And I've never given any one product or offer enough attention and worked on it consciously enough to grow it to where it became like a meaningful revenue for my business. So if, as we're sitting here right now, my business in November, or it's beginning of November, so my business in October did like $2,000 from all this Craftsman creative stuff, because I had a good coaching client, a good consulting gig, like some things came through. Before that, it was like $800 to $1,500 a month. So why, this isn't a question for you, this is a rhetorical question or just a introspective question, but I wonder what it is where I'm defaulting to making more products and offers instead of going really deep on the thing that's already working, and where two of them could be $10,000 a month instead of trying to sell 200 books or 20 courses or whatever it might be to make the same amount.
Well, it just comes back to what we talked about in May. You can't make more products because you don't have the audience level yet to give you guidance on what they should be, nor do you have the built-in marketing mechanism of people who want to buy the next thing that you make. So again, back in the day, you could build a larger audience and pay attention to them, develop a successful first product that grows the audience more and leads to the next insight, et cetera, et cetera. But again, times have changed. So that requires you to change your thinking. And you know, with your film production background and the knowledge you have, that you can have a viable service business, but you don't have to just give up there. What you have to do is say, okay, this is step one, and it's going to build a broader audience that allows for step two and step three. And if I want to keep going from there, like Brian did, great. But a lot of people are just fine with a couple of digital revenue streams. And then if you don't want to do client services, you can either hire people to do it, you can partner it off, or you can just stop. And which it's a nice feeling to know that you can stop the client services side of things.
Yeah, well, I actually really love the idea of, okay, well, I don't want to do as much, so instead of stopping, I'm just going to crank the price up to where, like, it would be amazing to do it at that price. I would love to do it, but maybe one person every month or 6 months or whatever decides to say yes to that. Very cool. So my next question, and maybe you have a different direction you want to go, but my next question is, okay, so say I want to not really pivot, but expand my focus from not just like, how do I get more email subscribers, but like, how do I get more of these bigger ticket clients? And how does that play into growing your audience? Because in my mind, the way I'm picturing it right now is like, okay, if I start targeting with ads and newsletter sponsors or putting the offers out on the internet of like, I can help you grow your business because I've built 6-figure businesses and stuff in video production and film production and these kind of spaces, online courses. How does that grow the audience if I'm targeting such a singular high ticket person with those offers, or am I looking at it the wrong way?
Yes, you are, but it's understandable because, first of all, we don't want to advertise services necessarily, or product even. You know, it's always better to get someone on an email list first and then make offers. So in this case, what we're talking about is a broader audience of people who all have the same problem, but they don't have the same level of motivation, urgency, or willing and ableness to pay your highest prices. But if they all have the same problem, then what you create is a vehicle for that, which is, let's say, a newsletter. And it's, I'll probably get this wrong, you know, based on your exact services, but you know, you understand film production, so you understand video production, and you understand a lot of the elements that are related to that as it applies to online marketing. So that's what the newsletter or the blog or the podcast, I recommend a newsletter because just go straight to email, right? I mean, you got to get them on an email list regardless. Then you add the podcast or whatever to it. But if that entire group of people has the same problem, I want to do this type of online marketing with multimedia, then that's how you build a broader audience. only a few of those people are going to raise their hand and say, yes, I'm going to pay you $5,000 for you to set this up for me or coach me through it or consult with me over time to make sure this goes right. Say you focused on putting on virtual summits, for example, that may not be something you're interested in, but just as an example, that's a high ticket item where you could get 2 of those or more a month, really, if you think about it. But most people aren't going to pay you for that. But would they buy a really great cohort-based course that taught them what clients struggle with and have pain points with? Absolutely. And then would another segment of people buy a self-paced course based on the same lessons but without your interaction? There you go. So you've covered 3 different let's say segments of your audience they all have the same problem. They've just got different levels of motivation and willingness to pay a certain price. So that's the trick. And it's totally doable, but that's where people get hung up because they see the client level person as different from the other people in other ways other than able and willing and motivated to pay a lot of money. Right. And they're not.
For sure.
Yeah. So that's the way to think
I've done that.
That's the way to think about it.
Yeah. I mean, Daphne, when we spoke, was even like, well, why aren't you talking about video and film production and all those things? I'm like, well, I don't know where the overlap is, right? But you're showing me that if there's better alignment with the content I'm talking about, which is the most accessible because it's free, it's a newsletter, it's going out to everybody, but it's also very specific in talking to that ideal high ticket offer client, then you're going to hit everybody, but you're really going to speak to that person. And it doesn't have to be
right.
2 separate things. It can be the same.
And remember, so you have a call to action in the newsletter that says, hey, I've got room for 2 clients this month for my one-on-one services. Only a certain type of person is even going to click that. The other people are just going to be blissfully unaware and nurtured by your general newsletter content, right? You want to keep them obviously engaged, even though they're not biting on the most expensive offer. So, but the interesting thing about the most expensive client services offer is it provides a pricing anchor that validates the price of your next level thing. I charge my one-on-one customers $5,000 for this, but this cohort-based course is $2,000, right? And then you use that anchor for the self-paced course. The live version of this costs $2,000, but you can buy it for $500, right? So it's all the same problem, different levels of motivation per prospect. And it's funny you use the word alignment because I taught this to the unemployable people, and we just released a course on it. And I call one lesson the alignment. That's literally the secret to it.
I wonder if anyone here has taken that course in the last week.
Oh, is that you? Did you sneak in there?
Sneak in. I paid good money for that. No, it's this is so good because that's been the missing piece, I think, for me is like, okay, how am I going to serve? Basically, I want, in a dream world, I would love everything that I do to serve this single audience, but I've been thinking of them as different audiences. Like I can't talk about film production because that's a separate group of people that I'm serving as a film producer. And that's an extremely high ticket offer. Like, I don't know if I mentioned it before, but like my rate now to do a movie as a producer is $50,000. Because right. I'm an international film producer now. Like I was doing a movie overseas this summer. So but none of those people are on my email list. Why not? Like it would make sense
I do think just, off the top of my head here, that level of film production is what you use as your expertise and your credibility for video level online marketing online summit production, right?
Mhm.
So you're like, I'm a big dog over here, and that's why you should listen to me. But you're not necessarily marketing to that level of person.
Right.
You could take a shortcut, do one film, take that $50,000 and advertise until you got the audience you want, and there you are. But I still think you should do it on a return on investment basis.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Well, and I'm trying to match this with the stuff that Jay and Daphne were both talking about, which is kind of that linear product offer when people come into your email list. I'm curious your thoughts on this. Do you present people with that high ticket offer, or do you present them with a low ticket, and then if they're interested in that, sell them the next thing or upsell them the next thing, and then it goes bigger and bigger and bigger? What kind of progression do you use? Because they've both talked about, have a low ticket thing like your book that covers your acquisition costs for your audience. If you're doing ads or you're doing newsletter sponsorships, you can sell a certain number of books, and that covers your cost. Or are you going the other way where you're really trying to sell initially those high ticket things?
Well, here's the thing. And, that type of, again, an ascension offer where it goes from tripwire, my friend Ryan Dice coined that term, like a $9 to $29 product, used to qualify as what's known as a self-liquidating offer. If people don't know what that means, it means it pays for your advertising spend and builds a broader audience. Now, in the heyday of Facebook advertising and webinars, say 2015 or so, before that whole thing got really burnt out, those type of offers worked generally well. The dirty secret is they don't really self-liquidate. A book will recoup some of your spend, but if you look at what's happened with Facebook and certainly with Google, you need something more expensive than that if you're going to self-liquidate, and certainly if you're going to make a profit. Like, for example, when I developed my first course back after I came from sabbatical, I talked to some Facebook ad people. I'm like, I got a $4.95 course here. I want to experiment with Facebook ads, even though I hate Facebook. And they're like, yeah, you're going to have a hard time making a profit, even at that price point. And I'm like, what? Right? So, and here's the other issue. This means that you have to write a book or develop a winning product. Usually you have to have that tripwire level, and then you have to have an upsell, because the upsell is where you actually make some money or truly recoup your entire spend and make some profit. But with the audience first methodology that I practice and preach, you use the audience to develop the product in the first place. So it's a catch-22, which is, I got to develop products to get the audience, but I don't know what the product should be because I don't have the audience. So the higher priced client services model, number one, that's where most people start or are at, right? There are a lot of people out there right now who are freelancing and consulting who want to do what you want to do. But they're currently doing this. With a little bit of repositioning and pricing guidance, they could make this work for them without writing a book or creating a product that they don't know if it's going to work. So it's a very practical thing. Plus, it's expensive enough to where you don't even worry about being an optimization whiz with online advertising, because you've got so much leverage with the higher price point. So that's my rationale behind that.
Okay. I'm gonna take your word for it, and I'm gonna implement that. And I think what that looks like, maybe correct me if I'm getting a little off course here, is just I have those offers. So it's just putting them in front of people, including them in the newsletter calls to action, talking about them more in my content, bringing up those things that I do those things to people that are in my audience that maybe want to be in my audience, so that there's more awareness that those offers exist.
Yes, absolutely. And, once you've got it down right, that testing things out with calls to action in the newsletter itself, a couple times a month, or at least once a month, send a standalone email. You can't be afraid to market to your people Hey, I'm in business here. And again, it can be tough when people unsubscribe and whatnot, but you just really have to be a little tougher skinned about it and realize that that person probably doesn't belong in my audience if they resent the fact that I need to make a living, right? If you're not interested in my services, that's okay. Just I'll have some more good free content for you in a minute now. And hopefully in the future, I have an offer that you're actually interested in.
Yeah. Well, and if you're using your audience first approach, then you're going to be building in ways to ask questions of that audience and get feedback and learn from
Absolutely.
them. And those things I've built out. And so I already have those mechanisms that are, bringing signals into my data stream, so to speak.
Right. Right.
So that's really cool. I can already kind of see how that could piece together with what I've already got. So with the few minutes that we still have with you, I'd love to touch on the audience aspect and growing an audience to that minimum viable audience. I just crossed 2,500 total email subscribers, and that's adding about 1,500 over the last year since I've started focusing on this. So,
right.
I'm now doing like 30 to 40 a week. On a good week, it'll be 60 or 80 because I got a good newsletter sponsorship or something like that. So help me understand, help the audience understand, like, what do you recommend at this stage in a creator journey? Because I'm not yet at that minimum viable audience number. So how do I supercharge this, or maybe what am I missing in this process of attracting and finding new people to come into that world?
Well, again, if you have something to sell that offsets spend, and of course you start small, and one of the best developments I think we're experiencing right now is how email sponsorships are becoming somewhat scalable. It's never going to be plug and play like Facebook or Google, but it used to be even harder. But now you've got the ConvertKit Partner Network, you've got SparkLoop with their programs. And to me, I want an email person, right? I don't want to interrupt someone on Facebook to get on my email list. If someone is a demonstrated email subscriber, I want to take a shot at them. I think that is a great way. So right now you're getting really good results on cost per subscriber acquisition. You have to figure out, like when you have a service you can sell, you can do a rough calculation of lifetime value, even if they're only a one-time customer, because it's so high compared to what's the lifetime value of someone who buys an ebook and then maybe a course, right? That's a more challenging calculation. So if you can figure out through the proper testing methodology what your offer is for your services, what copy's working, all of that for optimization and conversion, then you scale up your spend until you get to a point where you can't raise the price of your services anymore, or you're in danger of losing money. And then that's where how to back off and where your thresholds are. But in the process, you're already reaching up into the 10 or 20,000 person list, right? And at that point, you can start shifting gears, maybe cut back on the number of clients that you're taking, cut back on the advertising that you're doing, and start focusing on developing those next level offers. The other good thing about getting over the 10,000 person hump is that a referral program, which is what SparkLoop started as, that software really, the core of it is, your audience can start growing itself. Now, caveat, all of this depends on you not only building a list of a certain size, but having engaged people on that list, right? So software is not going to do it for you. Strategy is not going to do it for you. When it comes down to it, it's you and them. And that part we know we can't get around.
Yeah, it's so true. There's been such a great confluence of mentors and examples and people that I've met over the last year of trying my hand at this next tier of the pyramid, that a lot of those systems and the engagement stuff is really in place. Like, I'm in a good groove with the newsletter and with this podcast and with other content that's going out on social media. I haven't yet explored the paid aspect because every time I have tried it, it has been expensive and has not produced results. But I actually have good um, new approaches to try on that front. But I do like the idea of kind of taking a step back, looking at my whole product offering basket and going, okay, what's really the way to align all this and how to talk about it in a way to bring people in that might ultimately be interested in that stuff. Because one thing that I've taken from this, I don't know if you said it explicitly, was like, why bring people into an audience if they're not the type of people that would be interested in those bigger or higher ticket offers? That's a
Right.
disconnect. That's misalignment, right?
Well, I found, back from the early days of my career, the easiest call to action to close is for client services, because you don't have to get the copy perfect and everything to get someone to pull out a credit card, especially for an expensive purchase. That takes time, and over time, as you understand your audience better, you get better at that. You understand, or you bring in an outside copywriter. But if you can just build in a mechanism by which you get people on the phone and they have a problem and you have expertise and you're going to do it for them, and they've got that proper level of motivation, those are the people that can help you get off the ground. I think the biggest disconnect here is, number one, despite the leverage, most client service provider, I say most, a lot of people advertise, but your average freelancer, it just doesn't occur to them. And I guess it makes them nervous, right? But they're in a better position than someone selling an ebook. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
So it's really the fact that how does this expression of my expertise that I do in client services lend itself to the next expression of my expertise, which is group coaching or a cohort-based course, which leads to the next one. So that's like the base that gets you from client services up to digital products. And then, of course, you could be doing affiliate marketing as your audience grows and selling other people's stuff for related offers, which also is a form of market research, which can lead you to develop one of those products yourself. So you see it, how it all happens. It's a snowball effect. You just got to get it going.
Yeah. No, that's so true. And the efforts that I've put in, on a good week will net 250, maybe 300 visitors to my website. So I'm thinking if I'm going to want to get into this 500 or 1,000 or 2,000 people a week, I've got to supercharge it with some of that advertising or newsletter sponsorships or those kind of things. I have seen some really good results from the Sparkblue partner program that I started just this last month. It went from 1 or 2 subscribers a day to 5 or 6 a day, like that, like in a week. And I'm just like, oh, that worked. I'm happy to spend a couple $100 a month on people referring me newsletter subscribers. Right. And those have been sticking around. Like I've been tracking them and paying attention. And like, they're not just checking out my thing and then unsubscribing. Like the email system that I've built is working in as far as engagement and getting people to reply to emails and stick around and click on links. And so I'm excited to supercharge that with a little bit more spend.
Well, I keep saying that, things are different than they were back 10 years ago or whatever. And it's true, but we also now have infrastructure that has adapted to the new reality. I just think there's a disconnect in the content creator space, which is that traffic must come from me creating more and more content, which is really you spending your most valuable resource, which is your time. But if you can strategically spend money and get it back, it's a much better scenario in the current environment. Like I would never change what I did in 2006, but it ain't 2006 anymore.
Yeah. Gosh, this has been so eye-opening and enlightening. So I really, really appreciate all of your insights today, Brian.
Thank you.
How about you tell us where people can find more about you and all the work that you're doing right now and the different offers that you've got out in the world?
I'd say if you're interested in the specific discussion we just had and want to find out more about that, that's over at Unemployable, unemployable.com. Specifically, we have the Personal Enterprise Playbook, which is a free email course. And you can get there by going to unemployable.com and hitting the blue button that says find out more, or you could type in the playbook.email. So that'll take you directly to the page.
Very, very, very cool. I highly recommend everybody does that. Like I said at the beginning, I've been a member of the Unemployable Initiative for like a year now, maybe. I've presented over there. Like, you guys have a great community, and the content you're putting out, especially this most recent course, is really, really, really good. So everybody should go check it out.
Awesome.
Brian, thank you so much. I'm excited for the audience to be able to listen to this episode. I think it's going to just take everything that, if they've been listening for 8 episodes and this is episode 9, it's just going to put a lot of things into better context and help them as well as it's helped me. So I'm really excited for this. Thank you. And I'm looking forward to the next time I get to see you in person.
Absolutely. I appreciate you having me on the show. I hope it helped. And more importantly, I hope you get across that line as soon as possible. I know you're going to get there. I just want it to happen quickly.
Me too. I appreciate your confidence in me. Thank you.
Hey creators, that's it for today's episode. And another special thanks to our sponsors, Lulu, ConvertKit, and StreamYard, for making this season of the 10K Creator possible. Check out past episodes of the show over at contentinc.io, and you can find me, Daren, at craftsmancreative.co, and on Twitter at Daren T. Smith. And you can connect with Joe online on Twitter and LinkedIn at Joe Polizzi and at thetilt.com. Now you can find links and show notes at 10kcreatorshow.com. And every week we'll have different giveaways for people who share the show with their friends and audiences. So head over to 10kcreatorshow.com to learn more. If you're listening for the first time, be sure to subscribe to the Content Inc. podcast, as this show will be on the Content Inc. feed each week. Thank you so much for listening. Please do us a favor. If you've enjoyed this episode, share it with a friend. You can put it in your newsletter. You can share it online. Tell other people about it. That's the best way to share this episode with others. Thank you, and we'll see you in the next episode.